Welcome, guys. We are back on Ghost and Friends, second time of the day. We've got some very fun guests today. Joining me are Maggie Johnson, Brandie Mack, and Vern Funquist. Guys, welcome to the channel. Real quick, I'm going to get each of a backstory from each of these guests, if they don't mind. Maggie, we'll start with you. Welcome to the channel. Talk to me a little bit about your fandom in Missouri, how that developed, and how it got you to where you're at now, which is talking a lot of college ball.
So actually, go back way far back. My dad's was a football. 3 years ago when Mizzou started. This year when I became a fan. My dad's a Missouri Hall of Fame football coach, high school. So I've been around football my entire life. We were watching film and doing playbooks and all that stuff. So it's just kind of in my blood. Wasn't born here. I'm actually from Nebraska, which is funny because my family, I know they're all Cornhuskers. And well, my dad's from Columbus, Ohio, so he's a Buckeye. So I kind of got in that weird spot where, I hated winning, I guess. And I could have went to like Nebraska back then, or I could have went to University of Ohio State or whatever. And I chose Mizzou. So here we are. But yeah, I just love ball. I love Mizzou. If you follow me, you know that a little bit. So yeah, I love talking about it. Man's world, being a female in a man's world. Brandie can relate, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, you do a great job of it. Tell me a little bit about your show that you were telling me about before we came on live, so that any viewers can check out your work there.
Yeah, I do a podcast called Mizzou That's Who. It's on the KC Sports Network. Mainly a Chiefs network, but they cover K-State, KU, Mizzou. Martler, Vern Funquist has actually been a guest on the show a few weeks ago, and we covered Mizzou's schedule. Yeah, we just, we break down everything. We typically have a guest on. So we've had some Matt Miller from NFL draft analysis. We've had Carl Reed from 247 on this season. So we just talk all things Mizzou ball, what's to come. We'll break down the games during the season as well. Hopefully they go better than 2022 did. That was rough. 2022. Yeah. We'll get into that Auburn game, that 2022 Auburn game. Having to do a podcast after that when everybody just hates their lives, terrible. But
oh my God, I'm so sorry for you. You had to go through a traumatic experience with a loss. That sounds terrible.
We can get into the Kentucky loss too, because you know what that was like as well, getting a roughing the punter 39 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So, our podcast is super fun. Typically we'll only talk about other teams that we're playing that week. We don't do like what Marler's show does and talk about all the games. But if we're playing you that week, if we played you the week before, come and listen to our podcast, get some laughs in.
Yeah, you guys absolutely check that out. I'll be doing so myself. We're going to hop down to Brandie. Brandie, how did you develop your fandom of being an Auburn Tiger? I don't know as much about you as I wish I did. Talk to me about your love for Auburn and how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, so my dad's an Auburn grad, and then my uncle played in the band at Auburn, so kind of ran in my family. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, just 45 minutes south of Auburn. So just always loved Auburn. My dad took me to all the sporting events when I was a kid, and then when I was a student at Auburn, I worked in the athletic department as what was known as a Tigerette, or a student recruiter. So I would host prospective student athletes on campus for official visits and unofficial visits, and did that for around 3.5 years or so, and also worked for the baseball team too whenever I was a student. So really just grew to love Auburn athletics more as I was a student. And then when I graduated, my degree's in finance, moved to Nashville, and sports betting became really popular here, and kind of just dived in with that. My degree's in finance, and so, it was really easy for me to kind of look at lines and understand what everything meant from a value perspective. So just combining something I knew I was good at in finance and something I knew I loved in athletics, and was kind of able to dip into that passion and contribute in a couple of different sports betting discords, and have gone on a couple of shows to talk about sports betting or just Auburn in general. So.
Well, obviously you're saying very busy. You have a lot of outlets where you can talk sports betting. Super popular in the market for that, and in the industry right now. Everywhere you go, you can find a different channel or show. I've watched a few myself, so I'll check you out as well, guys. Y'all check out Brandie. Thank you for being here, Brandie. And last but not least, the man himself, Chris Marler at Vern Funquist. You do a lot.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it all. He's ran 5 shows. This is his 5th show of the day. So talk to me, brother.
First and foremost, I want to say 2 things. One, shout out to Barstool Longhorn for me in the chat. They DM me and called me a bitch because of the objectively factual statistics I threw out on the graphic. So good to see you guys. 2, love the fact that we opened about this entire show about fathers. I was told there would be no talk about
my bad.
ISIS, Yellow Starburst, and my father. So, but it is where my fandom started. I've been college football is my favorite thing since I was like 4 years old. Man, I've loved college football so much. It's been a ton of fun, and got very fortunate about 7 or 8 years ago to start doing it as a.
Hold on now, sidebar here. Do we have proof? We probably do
We
have proof.
a new account owner.
We've switched admin. We've switched admin since June. So
New Barstool admin.
No, but I've been fortunate enough to be covering college football and SEC football specifically for about 7 or 8 years, and now finally out under the. I don't know how to phrase this without it sounding terrible. Limp wrist, iron fist that is Saturday down south. And I have been able to do my own thing now. And Maggie knows all about it. I know Brandie has heard me bitch about them before. And like now I'm like kind of coming to my own and working for ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge and a new venture we launched called LouisianaSports.net. And then also with Locked On Gamecocks, hosting a daily podcast about South Carolina football. Then covering Alabama for Cover Crimson and Next Round Live, and then just covering, like I said, the entire SEC with ESPN over there in Baton Rouge. And then last but not least, my passion project and favorite thing is Fourth and Wrong, our podcast where we just talk about college football all the time. And I always say if you love college football and hate the bleep button, you'll love the show.
There we go. I think a lot of us here in particular can relate with that. Yeah, brother, I'll confess I was a high school football coach and was not really allowed to do much on Twitter. And I never used the app really until I created my Ghost account. And back in those days, man, I knew who you were. I followed you. I thought you were hilarious. Yeah, no, I thought you were great, man. I've probably followed you for over a decade plus, man. So
every account you've had, he's had to
I've had to find you, and I'm like, dang, this guy's down to 300 followers, but I mean, it seems like him, and then you build it back up, and they're like, here we go again.
I mean, listen, if you're in the chat or if you're obviously in the show, just simple word of advice, and not even if you're trying to build this into a career, but if you ever feel the need to tell one of your real life friends that you're going to kill them for not calling you back, don't do it because you'll lose an account immediately on Twitter. So there you go.
A legend checking in. A legend.
Best follow on Twitter.
A legend. Eddie may or may not have agreed to come on and talk a little college hoops. Shout out to our guy Eddie. Guys, 3 terrific guests. All doing a lot for college football, college basketball, even NBA. We've got NFL with Maggie. We've got guys or guests here that are they know ball. Give them a follow on Twitter, Instagram, all the platforms. Find them, check out all their stuff because it's going to be great. While we have you, Chris, I want to get into you real quick since it is somewhat of a Texas channel. Mm-hmm. You first, ladies. I'd love to hear your input as well. What do you like about Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC just from an overall whole? And what do you dislike about it? I'm not talking on the field this particular season, just the programs being there as part of your conference.
What I don't like is your fucking attitude you guys have on social media. That's for sure. No, listen, I love Sarkisian so much. I love the fact that you have 2 blue blood programs that are coming in. I said this when they announced it, in 2021. It's I don't think it's good for the conference because there's no need to have expanded this brand when you are winning every single year. It's one of the reasons why I don't think that they're going to be in any kind of rush to go to 9 conference games. There's just no need to because you're still winning every single year. I think they're 2 incredible programs, obviously 2 really good winning traditions, one more so than the other, just to be fair. And
I'm going to argue.
I think that when SEC fans look at this, they're like, they're arrogant and they're obnoxious and they live in this bubble that like their team is the only team in the world. And it's like, yeah, all that's true. It's also how every other SEC fan base lives as well. So I think they're a good fit from that standpoint. I'm really excited to see what happens. Don't take offense to this, but I'm really excited to see what happens after their first, like, not loss, but first unexpected loss. Like the first time you have to go into like Starkville or some stupid shit and you lose unexpectedly like 24-23 in some awful, miserable game. That's when it's going to be like I think like a welcome to SEC moment. But I mean, especially for Texas, you cannot have gone into the conference this year in any better situation. You just beat Bama on the road, beat them by double digits. You went to the college football playoff, and you return a shit ton of talent. And in the NIL era, like both programs, but especially Texas, are not going to be taking a backseat to anybody the rest of for anything in college football moving forward.
I have a lot that I can agree with you there. I do think that, there's some of us that are, hey, we're going to walk into the SEC and just roll over things. I'm referencing Twitter, and obviously it's not going to be the case. At the same time, I will say, I think those losses that you're referencing are inevitable, some of the silly, unexpected losses. But at the same time, I mean, I'm hoping that our side has been prepared for that with, some of the last decade in the Big 12.
Yeah, y'all been doing it nonstop, man.
I mean, losing games in Lawrence, losing games in, I almost say Manhattan, but those Gurus haven't beat us in like 7 years. Losing games in Iowa State, even Lubbock, like we've lost everywhere. So I personally, I think that, that whole decade just matured me so much as a fan to where almost kind of bulletproof. Not that I don't care anymore, but I mean, it hurts so much less because I'm better equipped on how to deal with that stuff. Brandie, Max, whoever would like to go, how do you feel about us joining?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting and agree with what Chris said on it's definitely a great time for Texas football to be joining. But honestly, I think both programs are great fits from like overall athletic standpoint, not necessarily just college football, because Oklahoma is a powerhouse in softball and gymnastics, and Texas is really great in baseball too, and they're good in basketball as well. And so I think from like an overall perspective, both of these teams fit really well into other sports too. And then also just the rivalries that are going to get renewed from this. So Texas A&M, that's going to be extremely exciting to see. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how both teams handle a grueling SEC schedule.
Wow.
As an Auburn fan, we play Georgia, Alabama, and LSU every single year. And shout out Texas and Oklahoma for joining, because it's the first year where we don't have to play all three of those teams in one season for I think the first time in my lifetime. And so that's something that I personally like about that. But Oklahoma specifically, their first year joining out of the two of Texas and Oklahoma, obviously Texas had a much better season than Oklahoma last year. And I think they're kind of set up to have a much better season this year, which kind of does suck a little bit for Oklahoma because their schedule going into the SEC this year to me is much tougher than the schedule that Texas has when you're looking at just the SEC games. So if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'd be a little upset about the first year in the conference schedule compared to what Texas got. So I think Oklahoma's first road game in the SEC, I think, is at Auburn.
They got Auburn, they got Bama, they got LSU, they got Mizzou. They got Mizzou, LSU, and Bama back to back to back. Texas
and
gets
Missouri's good.
Arkansas,
it's not like Missouri's just a cakewalk.
That's what I'm saying. I think Oklahoma has 6 games against top 15 opponents. Texas gets Georgia and Oklahoma back to back. Neither one on the road. It's something.
Very favorable. Brandie, I will say, and I hope you approve, I have guaranteed on this channel that Oklahoma goes down at Jordan-Hare. They will not walk out of there with a win.
I like it.
I only, we're only getting 1K live viewers per video on X and YouTube. So there's not a lot of people who've seen that. So it won't blow up on me if they do win, I don't believe. But a lot of confidence in your Tigers in that week. Miss Maggie, what do you think about the Horns and Sooners joining?
So, as a former member of the Big 12 Conference, this was a little tough. And I'm not saying that it's a scared mentality. I think this is the best time for Mizzou for those teams to come in as well, because if this was a few years ago, I would have felt a little bit different, but there's a little bit more confidence, I'd say, in the Mizzou clubhouse, as they say in baseball. But I'm just a little bit more, I've been around the Texas and OU attitudes a little bit more, and I'm not saying that it's like that the people are bad. Twitter amps everything up. So people on here, please don't like take offense to this. But since I've been a Mizzou fan, which has been a pretty long time. Yeah. Since I've been a Mizzou fan, which is a pretty long time, both teams have dominated my team, like absolutely dominated my team. And, you know, the OU fans love to share the screenshot of Winsipedia with the 60 wins to like 20 wins. And I understand it, okay? Because I would probably do the same thing too. Like that we do it to Arkansas and, you know, we do it to K-State when they talk. So, I mean, I understand.
I just want to say something real quick because I'm not going to be able to let this go, guys. Gauge sheets in the comments. If there's one thing we're going to do when we talk about football, we're going to talk about it in actual reality and factual statements. Okay. Did A&M and Mizzou have top-notch success? Mizzou went 4-8. They also lost their entire starting
5-7.
We went 5-7 in 2012. It was 2012.
5-7.
It was 2012.
They also lost their entire starting offensive line. The whole thing about SEC fans mad that Texas won't roll over, it's not that. It really isn't. It is, I think that the part where you look at, let's try to not be as delusional, which is what all fans are, right? To some point or to some extent. And they had a phenomenal season a year ago. But let's take it back a step, and you talk about a program that has 2 Big 12 titles in the previous 25 years before last year. Just 2, right? Is 4-10 against Oklahoma in the last 14 games. 4-10. Also, on top of that, you talk about they have the same amount of 5-win seasons. I'm sorry, they have double the amount of 5-win seasons since 2010 as they do 10-win seasons. They've lost 3 games or more in the Big 12 in 7 or 8 of their last 10 years. So, yes, they are a phenomenal blue blood. They have arguably one of the best color schemes in the entire country and one of the best helmets. But let's not sit here and talk about how the fact is like, we're not going to roll over and call the SEC daddy. 1, it's super weird that you even said the word daddy in that conversation. And then 2, let's just talk realistically about what's actually happening.
That hurt a little. I'm okay. that
hurt. Texas fans might get a little humbled when they come to Nashville in between that Georgia and Florida game and realize that they're not going to get out of there like scot-free easy in Vanderbilt. I'm just saying, like, not that Vanderbilt's going to be good, but
losing
some weird
record all time.
Weird stuff happens when an SEC team is good and they play Vanderbilt. I know from experience, weird stuff happens.
There were other examples you probably could have gone with.
It was only like a 17-point game, and I know that seems like a lot for like a normal game, but Vandy and Georgia, 17 points is really not that much. Like,
I remember even like
I think at Vanderbilt too.
Like 2019 LSU went into Vanderbilt, and I mean, like in the first half, I felt like Vandy scored like 20 something. Obviously they didn't last. I think LSU scored 60, but yeah, it can get weird there.
I don't love that was the example she rolled with after all of the facts that I brought in. I wish that you would have intervened there.
Look, I'm just using it from experience. Okay,
yeah,
I'm a little shy of my own team. My own team.
Vandy is like that. That's the benchmark. Let me tell you another thing, guys. When you go to Mississippi State in basketball, you don't walk into the hump and come out unscathed.
It's true. That is true too. Okay.
I remember talking
sports,
Tyler. Talking sports betting. I remember when I was like young and dumb, and actually living in College Station at the time, so incredibly young and dumb. But John Wall and them, that Calipari team, they went to Mississippi State, and I was like, they're -2. Like Mississippi State sub 500 in conference. I was like, we'll pile this. I think it went to like double overtime. Kentucky won by 3, but yeah, really rough 3 hours. I don't think I've messed with the hump since then. But all right, we'll go on a little bit. Overall SEC expectations. If you have a title game prediction, I want to hear it. I don't care who goes first. I'm not going to share mine. I'm doing a big prediction show on Friday. I don't know if you guys have those plans, so you don't have to. But pretty late in the game, so just curious.
I have mine. I'm going Texas, Georgia.
I approve.
Pretty chalk, but
it's a good one.
A slight chalk.
It's a good one. And I know we were talking about the schedules a little bit, and as a fan of a team that also benefited from this schedule situation, did it suck being bad from 2015 to 2022? Yeah, it did. It sucked. Like, I was at the games. I experienced it. I was on Twitter. I know what it was like. But it's not Mizzou and Texas's fault that the schedules got laid out this way. And for those of you listening that don't know how the schedules got laid out, they were broken into 2 tiers. And it was based on your winning percentage from the 10 years from conference expansion, okay? And so you were either in that high tier, which is like Bama, Georgia, I don't even know who else was up there because, they pull the weight in the conference. But Mizzou was not up there. And I believe Texas was not up there either. So we got placed in those games where you're still playing 4 teams from the top and 4 teams from the bottom. But we just benefited with the fact that our 4 teams, I think Auburn was up there. Our 4 teams from the top are not playing as good a football as they were playing before. So like we have Auburn, who else? Oklahoma is one of ours. And so, I'm not saying that Oklahoma's bad, but they're not like they've been maybe the past however many years. So we Texas and Mizzou kind of peaked at the right time.
Yeah.
While some of the teams have went down a little bit or even plateaued. And that's just kind of what the schedule does. And I mean, my team benefited from it too. So I get it, Texas. It sucks for other people. But still an SEC schedule. Like, we still go to Alabama. We still go to College Station. Like,
who do you have in the non-con?
Okay, well, okay.
You got a road game at UMass.
Okay,
you got a road game at UMass.
He's not our AD anymore. Okay, it's not.
Here's the thing about Mizzou's schedule.
Nobody wants to play at UMass. Nobody.
No one, not even UMass.
No.
I think the thing that's shocking about the Mizzou schedule is that if you look at like their season opponents for 2024, their opponents' winning percentage from last year, it's ranked 127th in the country out of 134 teams. There's not another team in the SEC that's outside of, I think, 70, right? And listen, I'm giving Texas shit because I wish that they would have had a tougher schedule. I thought mainly because Oklahoma seemed like they got a very difficult schedule in comparison. But here's the thing. If you're Texas, you're like, you knew you were getting a road game at A&M. There was no way they were going to waltz into the SEC and not get that game. It is very difficult to go play Georgia and Oklahoma back-to-back, right? If you look at ESPN FPI, which is kind of dog shit, but they still have a top 10 like strength of schedule on there. Michigan, they have a road game against Michigan. But like Maggie said, they're catching it at the right time. With NIL, Texas will never be 5-7 again. They will never be. They are 8 or more wins every single year from here to the end of eternity. Like, that's just where the program's going to be. But yeah, they did get Michigan in a year where it's like they lose everyone and their head coach, and like I will be pulling for Texas that day like a lot.
SEC pride.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be nonstop.
No, but I do think that all the shit talk I said earlier, which was again factual statements, I do think Texas wins or at least gets to Atlanta in the SEC because that schedule, it would be so difficult not to. And if they get to like all you need to do, I think this year with some of these schedules is get to 10 wins. Like if Mizzou doesn't get to 10 wins with the schedule, that's a problem. I feel like.
But you wouldn't have thought that. You wouldn't have thought that pre-2022 schedule.
True.
The only reason people think that this schedule is easy is because Mizzou won 11 games last year.
Yeah,
if we go 6-6 or whatever, like even last year, people are like after this past season, people were like, "Your schedule was so easy." Well, then why were you picking us to go 4-8 and 5-7?
That's
so
fair.
It's like. You can say those things like preseason, but we don't actually know how good South Carolina is going to be. We don't actually know how good A&M is going to be.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be improved. So people just being like, you're playing these teams that like didn't win this many games. I'm like, I understand that, but like a healthy Connor Wegman, like that's a different text.
And dude, you guys go to Vandy. So. If you walk into Vandy, no one comes out of Commodore First One Bank Stadium alive.
Just saying.
Listen.
Okay, but I think even like 8 to 9 wins is still fine for Missouri because like stuff happens and like they were so deep last year and returned so much. Like I feel like 8 to 9 wins is still fine for Missouri. Do you disagree, Maggie? Because isn't that what you said, Chris? Like if they don't get to 10 wins, like there's a problem.
Well, they won't get to the playoff with 8 or 9.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that pisses me off about the schedule, the biggest thing, I guess, right, is that like you have these 2 really cool teams coming in, and you have a chance to like you get to start from scratch, right? Because you haven't changed any of the scheduling since 2012, besides when Gus Malzahn acted like a bitch and made Georgia switch their game from the second to last week of the season to mid-October like an asshole. But like, I really was hoping they would do something like, all right, so for instance, Bama plays Oklahoma this year on the road. Cool. I know they just played Texas because they scheduled it way before, but like, I would love to play at Texas the following year, or like that's what I wish they would have done, was kind of like flip-flopped it instead of being like, all right, we have these two new really, really great programs and two really, really cool venues. One awesome city, not Norman, but like let's figure out a way to get like fans to both of those places, or have those fans come to all of these other places, and just don't mirror the schedule the first 2 years. It made no sense to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because now you're going to have to wait for 3 or 4 years to play those teams.
Yeah. I mean,
or
to make
Georgia,
it quicker,
never.
I mean, like, how many people would have think of the storylines? Katie, DeBoer versus Sark, Quinn versus Milrow again. Like, I wanted that when the schedule was coming out. I mean, not that I just think that's a more exciting game, storyline and headline wise, than Texas and Georgia. But yeah, I mean, great points. I don't know how you're going to do it.
Can we please talk about how they had this chance to do all this stuff with the schedules, and Georgia is still not going to Texas A&M?
It's never going to happen.
Georgia has never played at Texas A&M.
They played what, once in 12 years?
No,
they played one time in Georgia.
In Athens, right? Yeah, that is
never
insane.
have they played, and we've played Texas A&M, I think, 4 times. So I'm like, how is it?
I know y'all played on
the same time.
Y'all played on the first few years that y'all joined, right?
Yeah, because we lost the first year in 2013 with Johnny Menz. 2012 with Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, and
then we beat them. We beat them in 13, and that clinched our game against Auburn.
I thought Sankey was going to make Florida play A&M twice this year. He's made him go out there so many fucking times. I mean,
it's so insane. They've been to Kyle Field several times. They've been out there several times. I don't know. I personally, it's cool because y'all mentioned earlier about the rivalries that are coming back, or I think Brandie mentioned that. I'm a huge fan of the Texas and Arkansas game coming back. Obviously, the A&M game coming back is huge. But at the same time, I mean, if we ever do go to 9 and those 3 games are permanent, it's like, man, we're playing Arkansas, and right now that program's not in a spot where I think they'll be ready to contend or do much for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Trying to be nice to Sam Pittman because I love the guy. But there are just so many other matchups out there that are so cool, and I would rather see, But blessing and a curse. It's still really, really cool to be part of the conference. If Texas were to even contend for the title game in year 1, I'd be very, very happy. I think
I'm going to block you.
There's no reason that they can't. They can't. To be honest with you,
yeah.
I mean, it is crazy looking back at the last 10 to 15 years. And if you were to tell me like OU and Texas are coming in, and in the history of the Big 12, with OU and Texas, there were 22 Big 12 championship games. OU won 11 of them.
That's stupid.
They won 50% of the championships game. If you were to tell me that Texas was going to be in a better position their first year, because even 3 years ago, whenever they announced this, and I can't believe it's already been 3 years, I was like, oh, this is the best thing for OU. I was like, OU is going to like come in here, get better recruiting, do all of these things. And then Lincoln Riley leaves. And then all of these things happen.
You replace him with a skeleton.
I didn't say it.
We're not allowed to say that? Is that where is that?
No, you can say
it.
You can say it. I said I didn't say it. It's about me, Chris.
That transparent skin. It's like it looks like a high school overhead projector.
I have a question. I have an interesting question that I actually wanted to ask this, but now I would want like in a different podcast, but I want to ask you guys. Say Venables doesn't work out. Okay. Just, there's high expectations and at programs like that.
Yeah.
If you don't come in and it doesn't matter, like at Mizzou, you can, like Brandie said, 9 wins is a good season. Like I'd be happy with that. That 9 wins isn't going to cut it with OU fans. Do you think that they would try to go after Heupel, and do you think they could possibly ever get him?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think they could steal him from Tennessee?
I mean, they would have to pony up a ton of money to like, for real. Like they would have to, because Tennessee is another one of those things. It's not like Texas by any means. I'm not comparing the two, but like Tennessee's a lot like a team like Miami, where in the NIL era, they have deep pockets and donors who are starved to win. Like, they are going to put a ton of money into that program. They would have to, I mean, Heupel, the only 2 options I could see is like if he has the success that he had 2 years ago, if that's like sustained, right? Like then sure, they have to pay him a ton of money. Or he could do a situation like, I'm trying to think of an example in the SEC, like a Jimbo thing almost, where it's like you had a ton of attention early on and then you kind of falter And like, you can just strong arm. I don't think it was gonna be as stupid as A&M was by giving him a fucking guaranteed contract. But like, if you fall to 8 wins every year and then they're in desperate need of getting him, then he can go on a discount.
I think they could get him. I think he wanted the job, before they hired Venables. But
I think they could get him from like a monetary standpoint. But you see so many coaches now in all sports that just like are unwilling to leave the situations that they're in because they come back with like, oh, I want these NIL requests, and these schools are starting to pony up for them. So I think that they could get him from a salary standpoint and probably from an NIL standpoint for, the war chest that he would have going in. But like, would he want to leave? I don't know. You see a lot more coaches staying in situations where you think that they would leave and go to a school that has historically had a better program. So would he leave? I don't know. Can they offer him what he's worth? And from a monetary standpoint, I would say, yeah.
If he says no, they could get Brian Harsin.
Yeah. Gotta get in a hot tub with somebody.
For like $30.
Yeah. Think about all the recruiting money you'd have to just throw around. I mean,
save that. We don't need that.
But I don't know, Brandie. It's tough because Heupel, he was the last national championship winning quarterback at Oklahoma, and start tying that all in. Yeah, we do not know.
Oh, wow.
It's fun to think about. So 2000 is a long time for the Sooners.
You wouldn't guess that, but it's been that long based on Twitter attitudes as well. But
absolutely, we are not allowed as Longhorns to bring that up via Twitter. We get buried, but they won all those conference titles. It's hard to sit there and argue with those guys for too long, and they've owned us in my lifetime, which is really fun to say out loud. Gonna pivot off. Yeah,
I know the feeling of a rivalry. Yeah,
it's tough.
I get it.
Like I said, always rooting for you.
We
guys.
don't play ours, so I don't. But basketball, I get it. So
okay, every guest that's come on the show so far, or most of the guests, I have done a little trivia with. I have one question for each of you. I have tried to make them relatively difficult. We've only had one correct answer through the 7, 8, 9 shows. However, so
that makes me feel better.
Who volunteers? Who wants the first question? They're all specific to each of you, so it doesn't matter.
Marler does.
Okay, I'll go.
All right, Chris. I know that you're a legend. This is going to be cake for you, but 2011 national championship game.
2011?
2011 national championship game. Obviously, you know the teams. Who was LSU's leading rusher in that ball game?
Probably Justin Jefferson.
Kenny Hilliard, 5 carries for 16 yards. 5 carries for 16.
I was so geared up. I thought you were going to ask me something. I guess it makes more sense that he wasn't, but I do remember the fun stat from that game was they didn't cross the 50-yard line until 6 minutes and 48 seconds left in the fourth quarter. That's how bad it was. They were held to 92 total yards.
We got all excited and went to New Orleans to watch the game in like a casino and got like, the little ballroom, like the watch party, and everybody's, we're rooting for LSU, no offense. We're ready to have a good time. And holy hell, that sucked, man. That was just like, wow, this is like watching.
Arguably the greatest team to never win a national championship. You could like make the case like if you remember that LSU team, they beat 8 ranked opponents in 14 games by 25 points per game. Like they played a ridiculous schedule. They were legit, man. They were legit.
Oh, it went away.
Eddie said on Twitter like 3 weeks ago, and I'm not making this up. Every 3 days, I have to go back and look at it because it makes me laugh so hard. Like if I'm in a bad mood or if I'm sad, I'll just go to this tweet, and it's some like overweight girl on a toilet, and Eddie decided to tweet. He goes, "If I say something, is everyone going to get mad at me?" And I was like, one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen on Twitter, ever. Just so good.
I really don't think he even understands how funny it is sometimes.
No.
So, that guy's hilarious.
I'm grabbing another beer. I'll be back.
Yeah, do your thing. All right, Mags, Brandie, who wants trivia next?
Yeah,
I'm ready. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
all right.
You shoot one off.
All right, Brandie. This game was fun for me. I grew up, like I told you, I've always rooted for Auburn football a little bit. Just a big fan of college football in general. But 2002, Cadillac Williams, the interim head coach for Auburn, and in that A&M game, I guess for the last couple games, Huge Cadillac fan. That Jason Campbell team, Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown, I think back in the day, the team for Auburn that went undefeated. So I was like, yeah, they're playing A&M. Naturally, I want you guys to win, but with Cadillac at the helm, I was really, really pulling for you guys. You guys win 13-10. Who caught and scored the only Auburn touchdown from Robbie
Brandie,
Ashford?
we were there.
You were there, Brandie. You know this.
I wasn't at
Brandie
that
was
game.
a child.
You
You
were
know how
and
young
you
Brandie
were there
was?
at the tailgate.
It was 2022.
2002, Chris.
No, he said
2022.
he said
Oh.
2022.
Sorry, I
I
was
was like-
referencing.
I was like, why are you asking Brandie a question about 2020?
No, I couldn't do
But then
it
I was
like that.
confused
No.
when
Oh,
you said
gosh.
Cadillac, and I was like, what?
I'm
No,
gonna
sorry, I was
I was like,
referencing
oh,
why.
is that his dad? Did his dad play? Okay.
I'm
No.
gonna go Seth Williams. I don't know if he was on that team.
Shavarius Johnson.
Ah,
I also did
That
not
was
know that one.
2 years before. I
And I
think.
believe he's transferred now, plays somewhere else. Couldn't tell you where. That's all I got. All right, Maggie.
Dang. Okay, these are
It's your
hard.
time. I'm trying to make it to where, and it stinks because
I know. I thought you were gonna ask me who ran back the kick six or something, or who had the most rushing yards in the 2010 national championship game. I was ready for those.
This is like
I was ready for the easy ones.
this is like a football house. Like my kids could tell you that Chris Davis ran back the kick six.
Reagan said if I got that wrong, I have to DM Brian Harson. Not happening.
we do need screenshot proof posted timeline or on the timeline. Yeah, I feel bad as there was one gentleman, a Longhorn fan, who got one correct, and I did throw up an absolute softball because I was like, man, I made him way too hard last week, but he got it. I was like, well, that's not any fun. So apologies for that. Hopefully you all come back, you get some vengeance on the trivia, but Maggie, you're not done yet. All right.
If Maggie gets it right and we got it wrong, I'm gonna be so fucking upset.
Hey, I have faith.
No, actually, it was Brad Garrett in 2001.
Look, I black out the Brian Harson era time. So I was like,
Oh no, this is gonna be a very
Tailgated together that day, Brandie.
no, I don't think we did.
We did because I met your mother. I met you. It was.
Oh wait, I was at that game. You're right. I was at that game. Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
How Marler met your mother, Brandie.
It was a night kickoff, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I was at that game with my mom. Oh my
Beautiful.
gosh.
That's awesome.
We cried with Kat. Okay, wow. Now it's all coming back to me.
I am. To be clear.
I am slightly disappointed considering you were there and there was only one Auburn Tiger touchdown that day. But we'll move on. Maggie, 2013, great run for your Tigers, obviously. Who led Missouri in receptions?
DGB.
That is correct.
Are you fucking kidding me right now, Ghost?
I tried to trick her. Okay, LaDainian Washington led the team in total receiving yards. Very close.
Yeah, DGB didn't lead in receiving.
Didn't he have like?
But he had like five.
Against
He had like
Tennessee?
five.
You've done
4
5 shows
touchdowns
today.
against
You should have
Kentucky.
known everything. I almost I almost went way harder than that, but
Yeah, I knew that one.
you're doing a Baton Rouge show right now, and you can't tell me they're leading rusher from the Natty. That's a big stat.
He had 16 yards.
Which makes that fun. All right, we'll move off of this. We're gonna go hop over to the Olympics for a minute. I saw a lot of tweets about the Olympics. I know from Maggie and Brandie. Vern, I'm sure you were engaged a little bit.
I put out a shit ton of content in favor of you guys during the Olympics.
Well, I'm a bum. Okay, I was at the beach for some of it. I have no excuses. I wasn't at the beach. But so, what were you watching? What was your favorite event? I know, Brandie, for you, I really enjoyed keeping up with your Team USA basketball love and everything you had with that. I'm a huge basketball guy myself, but no pressure. Whoever wants to go first.
I can take
first.
it. You go, Maggie.
I was gonna say I know my answer because I'm a female, and if it's not gymnastics, like from like a lot of women's standpoints, because we just want to be like live our childhood
4'11"?
dream. Well, not
Quick
4'11".
sidebar. Maggie, do you have anything to say to Reagan?
I don't like the memories. Okay, I don't
Okay.
like the memories. And honestly, 2008 wasn't even like we lost. Like once we lost to Oklahoma State in 2008, it was just all downhill from there. Now,
I think we all remember where we were that day, huh?
I actually
I
felt
have
really
way
bad.
worse memories of 2007 and losing to Oklahoma twice.
Tough,
So
yeah.
when we
I
could
was-
have played in a natty. So
I played against Denario Alexander growing up a little bit. Played wide receiver for
Superstar.
Missouri. Yeah.
Number 9.
And so I really, kind of was rooting for that Missouri team that year, and y'all lost, at home the week before, and I had got home from the Oklahoma game, and I was rooting for you guys because it was going to set up a potential number 1 versus number 2, number 3 matchup. And so, anyways, that whatever happens, Zach Robinson and the Pokes. Well, so I'm walking into DKR the next week, and I love college football. I am a Longhorn, but I enjoy traditions. I enjoy the pageantry from all fan bases. Bands are awesome as shit. It's all cool. So Mizzou, a big pack of Mizzou fans walked by, and I just couldn't help myself, and I was like, M-I-Z. And
Yeah.
they turned around and they scream, obviously, COU right back, and I'm like, why did you have to lose last week? You blew everything. This is going to be so fun. I just vented for 20 to 30 seconds. I was like, Zach Robbins, come on, man. Y'all are Chase Daniel, Jeremy Mack. What are we doing? I was so frustrated.
It was very frustrating.
Yeah.
I was in college. So being on campus and being the number 1 team in the country, and then you're going in and, you lose that game. It's just so deflating to your soul, because we lost to them the first time that season, and luckily we played them. I think we played them in week 5, but we still had a chance, to crawl out of that, and we did.
Yeah.
And we just had to beat KU. Which, can we talk about? I know a lot of people are enthralled with 2007 Kansas. There's just something about it. They're underdog. They played the 3 bottom teams from the Big 12 South. The 3 bottom teams. So, and then they played us and lost. And the score was I think we won by 8, but it wasn't a close game.
Do you remember?
They scored, it wasn't close. And then they got the freaking Orange Bowl over us, right after we beat them, just because we lost to Oklahoma again. It was all these great things about a season. And we call this getting Mizzou'd. You guys probably have your own verbs, but getting screwed out of really weird things happening, that 2022 season where we did all that weird shit at Auburn, and then the punt.
That was just Auburn. That was just Auburn Jesus. That wasn't getting Mizzou.
Auburn,
that was just Auburn Jesus.
Yeah, Brian Harsin
But
alive.
then the
I
Kentucky-
thought Auburn was going to go win the fucking national championship for that game. I was like, this is what
But then
happened.
the Kentucky game happened, and then in 2013, it's we let Trey Mason run for 788 yards, and it was just all these
Great
things
running
that it's
back.
Yeah,
Oh,
that wasn't getting
God.
Mizzou. You guys weren't very good on defense.
No, but I mean, you set your a bunch of OU fans and other Tennessee fans say stuff to Mizzou fans about getting their oh my gosh, you guys are on such a high horse. I'm not on a high horse about this year. I do not. I go into every game thinking we're gonna lose. I went into every game last year thinking we were gonna lose, and we almost lost to Florida. 4th and 17. Thank you, Luther Burden, and thank you, Florida, for not playing defense. But I'd go into those games. I'm not going there to be yeah, we're gonna kick your ass. I'm so nervous every single game, and I will be the same way this year.
Do you remember real quick that 2007? Brandie, I know this. You remember this because you were -3 years old. But when Kansas and Mizzou played, the greatest sign in the history of college game day, it's at Arrowhead
Mark
Stadium.
Mangino.
They held up this sign of Mark Mangino's fat fucking face, and for the entire first segment, it's just this massive face, and it's it. That's all that's up there.
Oh,
And they
you
come
didn't see
back
the one
from
that says-
commercial, the very first commercial, and then the person next to him, as they go into, you see the face. The person next to him holds up a giant cupcake and just slams it in the side of his fucking head. It was, to this day, one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Mark Mangino loves cupcakes. It's always been a thing. We've set it for a thing. And
So
also,
good.
he won Coach of the Year that year, and Gary Pinkel should have won it.
Here we go.
But-
All right, we're
Great.
moving on from
But
Mizzou
going
trauma.
back to the Darnario Alexander thing, one of the biggest Biletnikoff snubs of all time. He had over 1,700 yards. If you go back and you look at his game by game,
We won't.
you won't. But if you did,
Brandie, what
He
was
had,
your
like-
favorite moment for the Olympics?
he was insane.
Okay, so my favorite I know this is where this came off on, and it's so funny because Reagan was I was 8 during that game too that he so I agree with Maggie on the Olympics on gymnastics. I did gymnastics for 13 years growing up. So, and obviously Suni Lee went to Auburn, and so was
Aw.
incredible to see. It was incredible to see her come back from overcoming having 2 kidney diseases. And also just a huge Simone Biles fan, but also basketball. I absolutely love Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. And even though he went to Georgia, I love Ant-Man too. So just kind of seeing Olympics, Katie, especially since, this is Ghost show in Texas. I love Kevin Durant, and I especially love Kevin Durant in the Olympics. Like there's just nothing like him. And so if you kept up with like FIBA and just the team coming into the Olympics, there was like a little bit of question marks because Steve Kerr didn't do the best heading into the I don't know. His lineups were like all over the place. So going into the Olympics, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna win gold. Like it kind of felt like it was up in the air a little bit. And then when Katie got healthy, it was like it's over with. Like there's no question we're winning gold. Yeah. Like it's gonna happen. So yeah, honestly, basketball and then gymnastics, those are my favorite moments from the Olympics.
I boycotted the Olympics because I saw the opening ceremonies and I was so fucking mad at all that Satan stuff. And I was like, you know what? Not in my Christian home. I'm not going to watch this. And then they had the whole thing with Caitlin Clark, who is, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's one of the best basketball players, maybe of all time. I think so. Maybe of all time. So fun fact about where I live in Columbia, South Carolina, Spectrum is the bane of my fucking existence, and they have been digging in our neighborhood for like 2 months. And so I would watch like track and field and it'd be like the 4x100. And I'm like, and like the last person, the last leg is like getting the baton. And then it would just freeze. And I'm like, and then 30 seconds later, they'd be like, Jamaica wins, or like, what the fuck ever. It was awful. I mean, track and field is always my favorite. Swimming's always a lot of fun, but there weren't as many great like American Olympic stories for swimming this year. It's hard to beat what happened with breakdancing because as somebody that woke up after that was already aired, to find out that her name was Reagan because her real life name was Reagan, one, already top notch. And then to find out afterwards that she and her husband like kind of lied their way into the Olympics, and she's like not an actual breakdancer, but like a doctor in like African and tribal music or something like that. And they were like, no, she's really good. She's really good. She's gonna make it. And they just weasel her way into the Olympics. And then watching her play, like, listen, I've been made fun of on the internet a lot. But to have the entire world making fun of you because of how bad of a dancer you are, I think as white people, we could all agree that's a tough scene, maybe expected. But for that to happen, she's the only unlikable person from Australia besides that stingray that killed Steve Irwin. Like that's the only other person from Australia that anyone's ever disliked.
I'm a little older than you guys, but it reminded me heavily of like the Elaine from Seinfeld, the Christmas part. Yeah, that was the vibe.
She laid on the ground and did this move.
Yeah,
how brave,
strong.
If you're gonna walk off the streets and like go straight into the Olympics, you got to be like the Turkish or whatever guy, the gun guy that was just like
that guy was awesome.
Clearly in a mob or clearly like
his hand was in his pocket.
Yeah, he had no eye protection.
He's like jingling loose change in his fucking pocket and winning a silver medal. It was the most. That was the memes on this year's Olympics were incredible. Also, I love the thing about the breakdance thing. Real quick, is that she, like, you know how when you're about to, you've all seen Step Up and Step Up to the Streets with a Z. But when you go into the start of any sort of like breakdancing, they do this like all this non-verbal shit talk with like their chest. So she was like, like I'm about to excuse me, can I go off for a second? And then she began her dancing and it was like incredible. Gage gets it. Gage said
I got vengeance here.
Yeah.
I mean, I love basketball. I might like basketball more than football. I enjoy every second of watching Durant, like you, Brandie, with Team USA, the greatest Olympian hooper ever. So there is no, you can't argue. He's the highest scorer, the most medals. Like he's done it all.
And he was shit talking people on Twitter till 5 a.m. He was like Maggie. He was like if Maggie was an Olympian.
I love him. He's literally just like us.
Exactly.
Right.
So way taller, better stroke. a little more
Are you saying I
handles.
should be a gold medalist in shit talking on
Yes.
Twitter, Marler?
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying
I'm
you need to take a break every 4 years from doing it, and
I
then come
don't
back and
even
do it again.
I don't even respond to most of them. Like,
Okay, we'll talk about this off air. Okay.
I will say
we will. We will.
I will say the U of Oklahoma fans is probably one of the top 3 to 5 rivalries I'm looking forward to. Twitter rivalries for this upcoming year. There will be a lot. That's going to be a good one. All right, let's get back to a little bit of football specifics. Which conference are you going to find to be the most entertaining to watch, or which are you looking most forward to?
Like outside of the SEC, or is that all like included?
You can include the SEC as well. I know we're all.
Those
SEC.
are going to be, to me, like the biggest games. Like those are the ones I want to turn on, especially with Texas and OU in it, because like I would turn on the Red River rivalry or shootout or whatever you guys call it.
Can't say that.
It's been called like 18 things, but
in ceremonies.
It's always a shootout.
Sorry. Yeah, shootout. That's what I call it, but But outside of that, I don't have any clue what's going to happen in the Big 12. And like, do I think that the Big 12 is like significantly worse without Texas and OU? Like, yes. I don't know. Whatever. They can keep things fair and make a playoff system. Whatever.
I'm on the edge of my seat with this. Is going to be dog shit? Absolutely. Am I going to watch it every week? Absolutely.
Yes, because I don't know what's going to happen. Like when you watch, like when the rankings came out and you're like, oh, duh, Georgia's number 1. Like, Ole Miss is up there. Like, it's all Big Ten and SEC schools. I don't know what's going to happen, and they're all fighting for a spot. I couldn't even tell you who the best team is in the Big 12.
You know what's going to suck about that is that they're going to you're going to have like 11 or 12-0 Ohio State, 11-1 Georgia, like 11-1 Miami or Clemson, and then you're gonna have it's that dragon meme and like 84 Kansas State.
The clown with the guns.
Yeah, getting a first round bye.
Yeah, losing to non-conference, South Dakota State, or something along those lines. I've definitely played that scenario out of my head. I'm gonna be pissed if it affects my team. But I don't know. What about you, Brandie? I'm sure for most of us we'd say SEC, so we can say outside of the SEC. I like the Big 12 to be absolute bananas. I think that's going to be an absolute blast.
Yeah, since you said most entertaining, I would say this every single year, but unfortunately, RIP the Pac-12 and Pac-12 after dark. So I'm going to go Big 10 because of that, since like half their conference is essentially in the Big 10 or whatever the amount of teams that are in whatever they're going to call it. So
hey, Stanford's is the ACC, and when they came back in that Pac-12 after dark game against Colorado, that was one of the most fun games that
was electric. Twitter was fun.
Was Shedeur Sanders like tweeting out promotions at halftime?
Yeah.
Because they were up like 28 points. He's like Instagramming like his promotions. And then like they end up losing because A.O. Minor, their wide receiver, like caught balls off
300 yards.
When
Colorado went to UCLA and they got their shit stolen at halftime.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
They didn't lock their locker at Six Flags. They had their all of their shit was stolen from inside of the Rose Bowl. God, I miss the Pac-12. You're right.
How do you get out with it?
That's always to me, like anytime I think of like entertainment, I'm like, all right, it's Pac-12. Well, now it's like basically Big 10 all combined. So, but now with conference realignment and then being together, you have Washington playing at Rutgers in September. Like, what? Yep. So there's going to be so much travel involved with these teams that wasn't there before. So like the travel aspect to me, like, I don't know. I think it's going to make some of these teams be a little off their rockers, and these games are going to be fun and exciting, and maybe not as fun as like a big time SEC matchup, but like, Mountain West Conference at night type of fun, but make it Big 10 almost. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I'm going Big 10 from like a pure, like it's going to be kind of chaos, but more so because what the hell are all the teams combined in this conference? Because the Big 10 style of football is totally different than what we know, like Pac-12 before Pac-12 was disintegrated. So just those two conferences basically like conjoining, I have no idea what the hell those matchups are going to look like. So I think it's going to be kind of really exciting to see something different and new because, I don't know. I don't know. I'm excited.
Brandie, I think you're a really smart person. Obviously, with what you do, you have to be. But on this show, in 54 minutes and 29 seconds, you have brought up how difficult it is to go to Nashville and play Vanderbilt.
No, I just said it's a trap. It's a trap spot. It's
And
not
then with
difficult. It's a
18
trap
teams in the
spot.
Big Ten, brought up Washington going to Rutgers.
Look, I'm just saying it's giving 10 to 14 final score, and like I kind of like those kind of games.
Ooh.
Like that's kind of fun to me. Like
I think
I
that
like Rutgers this year, man. What's up?
they are recruiting really well, which is
What's
crazy.
up with
the Rutgers hate is crazy. Look, Rutgers might win that game.
But being a game being played in Rutgers, first off, you know what? I'll bet you $50 right now, Brandie.
Okay.
When they play that game, you won't watch it. I'll bet you double or nothing. You forget that it's even on.
I don't know if I would, because that's the kind of game that I would gamble on heavily. So
Yeah, Brandie does.
Well, I will say
it's giving like mid-major college basketball. I'm putting like $100 on the underdog money line type of game. Like that's the kind of stuff that I like. You know, like sicko type of games. Like when I think entertainment, I think like sicko games.
I think
you know, like
Washington at Rutgers.
Yeah,
That's
like
fair,
sicko,
okay.
like that's entertaining.
Gage
Or like
stole my answer. I think Gage, as much shit as I gave him
Maction.
earlier, he might be my best friend.
also a big action fan.
Age of
Dude,
awesome.
there's nothing like that stretch in mid-October when it's like, oh, we have whatever directional Ohio school is playing whatever directional Michigan school. Like, the Zips and the Mustangs can't fucking wait. Like
on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday!
And then you get some
freaking
other
Tuesday.
bullshit Wednesday game when it's like Georgia Southern at like App State or whatever. There's a span that happens every single year where from October to right after Thanksgiving, you there's football on for like 40 something straight days. So I do love the action thing. I will say I'm gonna miss the Pac-12 so much. I hate that they disbanded it. It sucks, especially for like Oregon State, that it's just they're just gone now. And they're gonna be playing the Mountain West. Like the answer for me is definitely the SEC because it's going to be the deepest conference. But I think the close second would be the Big Ten because there's gonna be it's gonna be fun to see some of these blue bloods have to travel not to fucking Rutgers, but like.
Look, I'm just saying we said the same conference. I'm just saying.
But Michigan
Oregon and Ohio State's gonna feed families.
Michigan going to the Rose Bowl is going to be awesome. USC going to Michigan, that'll be a lot lot of fun.
Rutgers at USC.
I will kill myself if I have to ever watch a Rutgers
USC.
game. Listen.
They were fun to watch last year. Okay.
No, they weren't.
Yes,
no,
they were.
They were fine. They were.
I'm kind of biased.
Television.
Entertainment to me is like the craziest stuff happening when you turn on a Rutgers game. You're like, yeah, they're gonna be down 5 touchdowns. Oh shit, they're winning by 7. What? Like that's so entertaining to me.
10 earlier.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it's like entertaining.
He's talking about the past, Marler. We're talking. This is the future.
I'm not gonna let it go.
10 in the future.
Look, I'm just saying when Rutgers upsets Washington at home, September 27th, by 4 points. Remember, I told you that.
They have my game, so I'll watch
it. Probably will happen exactly like that. I'm gonna get a text from Brandie.
Told you.
Put money on it, Marler.
That would actually be hilarious.
Brandie's gonna wake up on Sunday morning and be like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Rutgers beat Washington last night.
I better go watch this review on YouTube real quick so I know what I'm talking about. Mark Marler.
Look, it may be 40-44, but if they win by 4, I don't care. I'm gonna say that I was right.
If that game is on at the same time as an actual mid-major basketball game, there's no fucking way you won.
It's in September, so it won't be.
All right, fair enough.
I will say though, I feel like with the conference realignment, and this will never happen. It's never going to happen. This is just me as a Mizzou fan saying this.
Oh boy, here we go.
Can we put to rest the stupid the Southeastern Conference? The only people that care about the name of the conference
I know this is going to be good.
The only people that care about the name of the conference anymore is the SEC. Like
we're the SEC.
2 teams. We've got 2 teams on the coast of California. In the Atlantic Coast Conference. Can we just give up that the name thing really matters that much?
Just to be clear, you're talking about how geography doesn't, you're excited that geography doesn't matter anymore?
No, the SEC is the most geographical sane conference.
It was until you guys joined. Yeah, you're right.
I knew he was going to get there.
Where's Norman at? Norman is so far away. Norman is 7 hours past
What
us.
a nerdy ass name for Oklahoma.
Well, I live in Gregory with 3 G's, Oklahoma. Like, what the fuck
Yeah,
is
if
that?
they were really cool, they would just be a Columbia, like like the rest of us. But no, I just feel like I get so tired of that. Like, you're not even in the South. Or first off, we're south of the Mason-Dixon line. Okay?
Here we go.
That should
Here
be good enough for you Southerners. And second off, like, there's not 12 teams in the Big 12. There's not 10 teams in the Big 10.
Not 10
like
teams in the
it
Big
There
10.
hasn't been in so long.
Yeah, like
when's the
Gabe
last
said,
time
there's
the Big Ten had
27
10
teams in the Big 10.
Yeah. Here's my
Gabe's
thing. If
redeemed
your
himself.
coach didn't publicly condone or publicly come out and say that the opening ceremonies was wrong, then I don't consider you a part of the SEC. I would like to reiterate that. I ain't gonna let it go.
Okay, Chris, I found a better Big Ten game. Ohio State at Oregon.
Probably 50
Ohio
of them.
State.
Oh, they play
Ohio
this
State at Oregon. Yes.
Yes, that's a much better game. I
That's-
don't even know how that would be in
that's-
comparison to what.
that's-
Honestly,
that's
that's
over
going to be a
12
very
games.
exciting. Yes, it is. That's going to be
It's
also a
over
very
12
exciting
games.
game.
That there's like 47 amazing games, and you're gonna have to either have 47 screens, or you're gonna have to pick and choose which ones you want to.
Or just go to a bar.
Yeah, you got to go to a sports
Why don't we
book.
ask the chat? Listen, to settle a bet here, guys. If it's Saturday and you've got 2 options to watch a game, and Oregon and Ohio State are playing, and Washington is traveling 4,000 miles to Piscataway, which I'm not sure is even a real place, to go play Rutgers, which game are you watching?
Well, Mizzou plays at UMass that weekend, so we all know what I'm
Oh
going to be
my
watching.
God.
Okay, there's
Well, they
big
don't
games
play the
going
same
on.
weekend, but
What week
Big
of
games
the
going
season
on.
is it? What's Rutgers'
I'm-
record?
but my whole point was like regionally wise,
Rutgers
you're having these teams who have never played each other before, really,
Yeah.
or haven't played each other often, and all the way across the country. And I think that's going to add just like an entertainment aspect to it that like we haven't seen before.
I love that, like, after roughly 12 to 17 minutes, you were like, okay, hold on. Here's a better example.
I've been waiting, okay?
You said it so condescendingly, like, how about these 2 top 5 teams and you asshole? Like, okay, yeah, why did you open with that in the first place?
Because I like sicko games, and he said entertaining. So to me, I'm like, Rutgers, Washington, sign me up.
Is this what you wanted?
Well, that's the thing, though. It's
Yes.
like, you talk Ohio State and Oregon, like the expectations are really high for that game. So you can be let down if Ohio State wins that game by 17, which I don't think they will. But like Brandie's saying, you take Washington at Rutgers, a real barn burner, 2 excellent top tier programs,
Mm-hmm.
both on the rise. And, that game, can very easily exceed expectations. So I get your point.
I'm just saying, we all know how crazy and insane games can get when a team travels across the coast, as I saw myself last year at like 1 a.m. when
That's
Auburn
fair.
and Cal played each
Cal.
other. So that was my only point. And was that game entertaining? No, but it was hilarious. So
That was
like,
actually
that was
14-10.
Wait, what?
It
That
was
was
actually
14-10. I was
a
about
game.
to say, I'm pretty sure that was 14-10.
I think it was. So I'm just saying.
Wild.
So,
Very, very
yeah.
niche out of you.
I really thought Cal money line was the move that night. Cal money line was not the move that night. I struggled to pick up first downs, much less score points.
Oof.
But
Auburn didn't have 100 yards passing in that game.
and still control. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
it was
How
tough.
many
Tough
times
scene.
was Cal was in the red zone? I don't know. Both teams were barely in the red zone.
The
so-
missed field goal too. I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't done yet, and that I definitely want to get into, Maggie, Brandie, I want to talk about your Tigers. Either one of you wants to go first. What concerns you? What excites you? Go for it.
I took
think-
gymnastics first, so you go first,
Okay.
Brandie.
Okay. Exciting on our side. We have a really new, young, totally revamped wide receiver core. Haven't been excited for a wide receiver group in a really, really long time with freshman wide receiver Cam Coleman and for other freshmen Perry Thompson, but also Keandre Lambert Smith in our transfer. So I'm excited to see that wide receiver core. And then also just our, I guess, kind of just defensive improvement on the edge, in the edge position. So yeah, I mean, this year we should have a healthy Jalen McLeod and Kieran Crawford and Amaris Williams, and then we have Jamonte Waller coming into as a freshman. So I'm really excited for the wide receiver core, and then just improvement at the edge position, because something we kind of lost in the Harsin era was being not like elite at edge, but very good at edge. And I love a good defense, especially that position. So excited about those two things. Not fully excited about the offense as a whole, though. So excited about the wide receiver core, yes, but I think there's still a lot of question marks for us at the offensive line. We just, I don't know. There's not been really great reports out of fall camp for how our offensive line is looking, and we're still trying to rebuild from where Malzahn didn't necessarily like recruit very well in the offensive line, and Harsin definitely didn't. And we had issues in that position group last year, and that's kind of the foundation for a good, strong offense is the trenches. And I think that we may struggle a little bit there again this year. So I'm definitely a little leery about that, and in turn also leery about our quarterback play. I think we're going to probably see a good bit of improvement from last year to this year in Peyton Thorne, but that doesn't necessarily mean improvement and that it's going to translate into more wins for us, possibly. So a little nervous about like the quarterback position. I am excited about kind of Peyton having a full year under Hugh Freeze and in his offensive system in fall camp and in the offseason, and also going into fall camp knowing he's a starting quarterback. Last year, there was a lot of question marks of whether he was going to be the starter, whether Robbie was going to be the starter. This year, it was like, there's no question marks. You're the starter. Like, you don't have to worry about somebody behind your back or like fans talking online. Like, you're the starter. So that's great. But
his mom would be in like Twitter spaces with us.
Yeah, Robbie's mom.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot more cohesion like on the team too, because I think a majority of Harsin's guys have kind of filtered out, as well as like Gus's guys. And this is like truly Freeze's like first year of having all of his guys from both a staff standpoint and also just like a player personnel standpoint too. And so I think that's exciting as well. But a lot of questions in the offense. It kind of sounds like in the scrimmages that we've had, we've struggled in moving the ball, which is exactly our struggles that we had last year. So I'm still a little worried about the offense as a whole, but I think having some new electric freshman wide receivers in there will help. Maybe not as experienced, but definitely more talented than the wide receiver core we had last year.
I like Chris, you got thoughts on Auburn? What do you like? What do you
all jokes aside, I think that I had to do shameless plug. I had to do an article about this today on the LouisianaSports.net thing, one of my 18 jobs. I don't think it's even a hot take. I think Auburn's receiving core is going to be the most improved position unit in the entire country because of just like what they had a year ago versus what they have this year. Like it's elite dudes. It's not just Cam Coleman. It's a ton of talent. It is like you could make the case it's going to look a little bit like, you know, what Texas has looked like a year ago in terms of you don't have that kind of speed, but you've got that kind of highly ranked recruits and like high ceiling guys that they had.
Yeah,
no, I agree.
Marla was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how many yards, receiving yards, like Auburn got last year, and wasn't it just like an insane? They were like ranked 120 something.
It was really bad.
Cal game, or it might have gone to the Georgia game. There were 5 straight games against FBS opponents where Auburn failed to throw for over 100 yards. 5 straight against FBS opponents. It dated back to 2022, and it was like historically bad. And Peyton Thorne's been above average before at Michigan State. I think it's like all he'll have to be this year. But like I mean, the influx of talent, you don't. No matter what league you're in, you don't see that amount of talent. Because again, it's not just Cam Coleman. You got another 5-star receiver, Perry Thompson, and then 2 high 4-star guys. And in addition to the kid from Penn State, like they're going to be really good.
Yeah, and too, like I think a lot of fans' expectations this year are like 8 wins, we're happy. 7 wins, as long as it's not a New Mexico State type of loss on that other side, it's okay. From like a fan perspective, because recruiting is where it should be and is in the direction of where it needs to be. And so for Auburn, like I think a lot of our fans, at least me personally, like I'm very happy with 8 wins. I'm content with 7 as long as the losses are like excusable losses, aka not a New Mexico State loss. And it's not like that we lost that game, it's how we lost that game too. Like we got our ass kicked at home by New Mexico State. Like that's an inexcusable loss, but that's shown up time and time again on Hugh Freeze's coaching resume. And that just can't happen if he wants to stay the coach at Auburn again, in my opinion. So
It'd be awesome if you guys fired Freeze this year.
That's not. I don't think that's going to happen. Like there's.
No,
I
it's
don't.
not. But it would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And I also don't think that like he was also a play away from winning the Iron Bowl, which totally like as much as it's like Alabama's and everything, like that would totally excuse that New Mexico State loss that happened last year. So
you guys would have played it in your fucking stadium for the next 1,000 years.
At least the next decade.
Maybe you would have written a commemorative coffee table book.
Yeah, and I do think like him last year, like playing Alabama extremely close, also playing Georgia extremely close, like in recruiting going in the right direction. Like he's definitely not on the hot seat at all going into this season. Really like our only question is like, okay, offensive line, like can you at least give Peyton Thorne some time to be back there in the pocket and do what he needs to do. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm really not as concerned except for our defensive backs. We really don't have a ton of experience depth on that side of the ball in the DB room. So yeah, a little worried there if somebody gets hurt in our DB room. We're kind of cooked on that in that position group. But outside of that, I feel a little bit better about our defense too heading into this season, which we didn't have a bad defense last year by any means. There were just some key position groups that either had injuries or a little bit of lacking some talent there, but I think we've done a lot of improvements on that side of the ball. So not too concerned about defense, but definitely the O-line.
Main concern with the offensive line. I mean, I agree. That's my concern with you guys. Yeah. If Thorne is going to take the next step, obviously the talent of wide receivers is much improved, which will help him overall, but he's still going to need the offensive line. I have high confidence in Hugh Freeze and Peyton Thorne and them developing, something that works for them to find enough points to keep them competitive in some of their tougher games next year. Obviously, have them taking down the Sooners. I like Freeze a lot. I don't see the bodies in the O-line room for like a huge jump as far as overall growth and play, but I mean, Hugh Freeze is a great coach. You have to trust development, and you can't rule it out. So I agree with a lot of what you said. You're going to be thin on defense. Your probably defense is probably what you lean on most of the time, but there is potential. We'll see how high that ceiling is on the offense and if you can hit it. But I mean, with that wide receiver talent and Thorne's, ability, things could be fun. But I'm definitely still we'll see. Maggie, how about you with the Missouri Tigers? What you got?
So we return like 70% of our offensive production. That's 71% of our offensive production. So really my concerns aren't there. Our offensive line we return almost everybody from a Joe Moore semifinalist offensive line. And then we also upgraded, bringing in obviously Caden Green from OU, which if you're on Twitter at all, that happened. And then Marcus Bryant also from SMU from SMU. Brandon Jones, our offensive line coach, has done like an amazing job with our offensive line. And the players that have gotten drafted in the past from Missouri, we draft trenches players, like their offensive line, their defensive line. We're not really like a specialist type of school. We are I would say we're backup QBU, but that's, maybe up for debate.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. We got Chase Daniels, got a few rings. We got Drew Lock out there doing his thing. Blaine Gabbert, backup QBU. I won't claim anything else, but I might claim that one.
Clip that ghost.
What? Oh, clip it. But no, I'm very confident in Brady Cook. Brady Cook similar to Peyton Thorne, and I think Peyton in that year-to-year progress, I think he can jump up and do kind of similar to what Brady Cook did last year from his 2022 to 2023. And really, Peyton Thorne just needs to be like a game manager, and I feel like that's kind of really what Brady did last year, and what he hopefully will be even better at doing. He had 3,317 yards and 21 touchdowns. I'd like to see the 21 touchdowns go up a little bit with his 6 interceptions, but he's got the wide receiver room to do it. Okay. This is people underestimate our wide receiver room because they think we only have Luther Burden. We do not only have Luther Burden. I am telling you, Theo Weiss, if you know anything about Theo Weiss, played for OU. Also, I know it's wild, but it is. It is what it is.
I got to never say anything mean about Texas fans again. They're great.
I got to give myself something. Okay. I said backup. Yeah. Okay. He got backup. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wild that you would say that considering what Alabama's done the past couple of years, but keep going.
Okay. You guys have like some of the best quarterbacks. Like they're all Heisman finalists. Our guys aren't.
Yeah, we're actually called third string quarterback U. It's one
Chase
of the things.
Daniel was a Heisman finalist, so but
he also picked his own boogers.
Okay. Anyways, getting back to my wide receiver room, Marler. Theo Weiss, Mookie Cooper, Marquise Johnson. As Texas fans, you guys should know his senior year of high school, he's the 400, the state champ in the 400 meters. Like, I mean, he's freaking fast. All those long plays that you saw last year, that's Marquise Johnson. Yeah. But we also got good, like, younger guys. Josh Manning out of Lee Summit. He was like a highly touted recruit. He was a 4-star. So we've got like an amazing room. And then we moved to the running back room a little bit, and I know
y'all got another white kid back there this year or what?
We don't actually have a white Division II running back from Tremont
Corey
State.
Schuessler coming back for another year.
I wish he was. Man, did you remember that game where he put up 200 rushing yards and 100 receiving yards against Tennessee? Like, yes, okay, he was a D2 walk-on. Okay,
we know. We heard a bunch.
Did you?
Yeah, all year.
Did you, Miley?
One thing America loves, it's a very average white skill position player quarterback in college football and NFL football. They will eat that shit up.
You mean running back?
Yeah.
Anyways, but we replaced him with 2 guys one from App State, one from Georgia State. And they're pretty good little running backs. Like they're going to probably, Nate Noel is one of them. The other one's Marcus Carroll. I mean, they're good running backs. They both like led their they didn't both lead their conference because they were in the same conference, but they both were high up in yards. They're good running backs. And behind this offensive line, I really think that they're going to play well. Other than that, we really, on the offensive side of the ball, return like everybody, except for those 2 new offensive line players. Brett Norfleet, underrated tight end, like stud. He's like 6'5". Like, I think you're going to hear a lot about him as well. We'll flip to the defensive side a little bit. We did lose a lot of players. Okay. I get it. I get how it looks. Okay.
They lost more defensive players to the draft than Georgia did.
Yeah.
Great defense. A really good defense.
It was a very good defense. But really here's the thing people don't understand. Okay. So like guys like Ennis Rakestraw got drafted by the Lions. Great player. He's also, he's out of Texas.
I love him.
He's Duncanville kid.
Great story.
He was hurt a lot of the season. And the player that actually played for him is returning. So yes, I get that he is a great player. He didn't even play the last 5 games. Tyron Hopper, same deal, linebacker, didn't even play the last, 3 or 4 games, didn't play in the Cotton Bowl. All of these backups that played during the regular season and the Cotton Bowl, they're returning. So, I mean, I think a lot of our positions are actually still going to be pretty good. I think our D-line is probably the biggest question. We just lost Darius Smith to an injury, the transfer from Georgia. And I don't know, that dude is massive.
Yeah.
At least he's a massive, massive dude. So that's obviously hurts. Our safety group, way better than it was last year. Way better than it was last year. So there are still things that people I know people are questioning our defense and will it be as good? I know we lost Blake Baker and we lost Kevin Peoples. I understand that those are big hits. But also, not a single player followed him to LSU. And I think
the NFL draft, dummy.
They did not all go to the NFL draft. Okay, they did not all go. Oh, I'm one of our guys that went to the NFL draft as a safety, and I know people his name is Jalen Carlisle. He's playing linebacker. He didn't even play his position at Mizzou that he's playing in the NFL. So they drafted him to be a linebacker. So I don't know. I don't think our defense is going to be as bad as what people think that it's going to be.
I mean, that's going to tell the story for you guys. Schedule, I mean, dang,
it's favorable.
Fellow favorable schedule haver over here.
It's favorable. And I get it. I hate our non-con too. I don't know. This guy that was our AD, for 2 ADs ago, I don't know what he was doing. To be perfectly honest with you, that's why he's not even an AD anywhere else. He just quit. And he was also the guy that got sued by Don Staley for like saying some weird remarks. So like he's a weird guy. Like he's not the AD anymore. I get it. Our non-con sucks, but you cannot say that our SEC schedule is like super easy. Like if you want to talk about easy, but you want to talk about easy SEC schedules, guess what team doesn't play Georgia or Alabama?
Alabama.
Well,
you played Georgia.
You played Georgia.
Yeah, good point.
Texas A&M.
Like A&M has an easier schedule than y'all.
I love how Missouri fans like constantly shit on Texas A&M because they joined the conference at the same time. And like when you think after this year, it was kind of like, okay, actually, like Missouri has contributed more, like at least in football.
Than A&M for sure, yeah.
Oh, 1,000%.
And people will they'll sit here and be like, well, 2013 and 2014, the SEC East was terrible. If you don't remember how good South Carolina was as well, because that's
a you problem.
That's a you problem because South Carolina finished like ranked in the top 5 in the nation. Like
they were one of 4 teams that won 11 or more games for 3 straight years. It was them, Oregon, Stanford, and Bama.
They were good.
Also, side note, shout out Gage Sheets for reminding me that Diego Pavla transferred to Vanderbilt, the New Mexico State quarterback. So he understands why I'm saying Vanderbilt could be a trap game this year. Yeah, anyways,
you were doing
if they have receivers because they did lose Shepard to Colorado.
Just real quick, Texas A&M opens and closes the season with 2 top 7 teams, Notre Dame and Texas.
Conference schedule.
Oh, conference. Okay,
conference schedule.
Okay,
and I don't think Notre Dame will be ranked in the top 10 probably by the end of this. Their schedule's also favorable, but their schedule's so favorable that if I think they lose one of those games, that they're gonna be
fucking tired of Notre Dame. I'm like. I think they're going to be really good this year because they got LSU's OC from a year ago, and they got Riley Leonard, who's like obviously not Jaden Daniels, but he is a dual threat quarterback that's very good. I don't give a shit that you're playing a military institute in a fucking Major League Baseball park. It does not do anything for me. Like, I don't give a shit that you're going to play Army at Yankee Stadium or Air Force at fucking Camden Yards or whatever. Like, it is the dumbest shit game. To me. God, it makes me so mad. Maggie, are you on the 3rd team part of your depth chart yet, or where are we at?
I'm done with my depth chart. Unless you have any questions.
Covered everything.
I will tell you though, we will not have Harrison Mevis making 61-yard field goals this year. So I will say that is a little bit like I've heard our kicker is good, but he's young, and because Harrison Mevis has done all of the kicking, and we won a lot of 1-possession games last year. So
that's true.
Oh, fun fact on kickers: Auburn's the SEC kicker. You over here. Our starting kicker is probably going to medically redshirt this year, and we're gonna have a freshman kicker who's also very, very good because we're SEC kicker you over here. So he's going to be very good. But our starting kicker, which is the younger brother of Cincinnati Bengals starting kicker, he has been going through a medical issue, like some kind of IBS issue, and has lost tons of weight. This is public info. This isn't me
posted it.
This isn't Brandie giving HIPAA violations.
The internet made jokes about him having IBS. He's
it's really sad actually. So he's gonna medically redshirt this year. And so it's really interesting. Auburn's gonna start a true freshman kicker because our sophomore kicker has some digestive issues that are going on. But he's still very, very good. And we got him he's a walk-on, a preferred walk-on technically, and Ole Miss wanted him to go to Ole Miss on scholarship, but we're SEC kicker you, so.
Well, we have the greatest kicker in college football at the moment, strictly because of his hair. And
hey, great name, right? Great name.
I know he cut it, but we'll
great last name.
I will say this. Going back to Missouri, I think that. Sorry, 1 second. We didn't mention it. I think that the Corey Batoon hire is a huge hire for your defensive coaching staff. That's a big addition. Now that we've covered everything, Chris, we can officially go on.
Now we can talk about you, Chris.
Well, I have 7 teams that I have to cover, so I'll take Maggie's approach to this, and this is off the cuff and. In 2022, Bryce Young was the first Heisman winner to return to college since Lamar Jackson. Jalen Milroe threw for 297 yards and was the number 3 rusher in all of. So, like all jokes aside, what team am I talking? Am I talking about Bama or talking about South Carolina or what?
I think we're talking kickers, actually.
Oh, that's a lot of trauma. Me and Dr. Rocky have worked through most of my trauma with my dad and kickers, so I'm happy to be through that. We still got a couple things we got to work through, like how I can't spell Cincinnati, but we'll figure it out.
Oh my God, Marler! Just watch Babes in Toyland one time.
You guys? You know what really pisses me off? So, this has nothing to do with football. Have you ever spelled something in your phone and you know you're not spelling it correctly, but then your iPhone doesn't even put like a red squiggly line or like a suggestion? It's like, no, I have no idea what you're saying.
That's how off you spelled it.
Like I don't know how many T's you can fit into Cincinnati. Anyway, Bama. I'll start with Bama. Bama should be pretty good. They don't have any kickers with poop problems, so that's a plus. I think it's a big thing.
They also lost their kicker.
This confirmed.
Yeah, this is confirmed, dude. Okay. Hoganson was like.
Well, maybe the best kicker in Bama history isn't there anymore, though. I don't know if he's actually like one of the best, but I feel like he is.
But he's one of the best.
He definitely is like top 3, has to be.
Yeah, they replaced him.
Because we know what y'all's kicking usually looks like.
Yeah, I already said that. Joke.
Look, it's the only thing I have over.
I could probably be a top 3 Alabama kicker at this point.
Hey guys, I don't want to sound like all the men in your mentions on Twitter, but can I just talk for a second? I mean, Jesus Christ. So, Eddie, come get these women. What is happening right now? Anyway, one last thing about the opening ceremony.
Eddie won't stop texting you about how cute you look and how nice your muscles look tonight, Chris. So,
dude, Eddie it's still. If I say something, is everyone gonna get mad? Okay, so I'll try to keep it brief because I got to take the dog out. But it is. I think they're going to be. I think Bama's going to be good. I think the thing with Bama is that like they're going to put up 40 points a game. That's the thing that's scary about them is because like. Their starting 22 on offensive defense is going to still be very, very good, very, very talented. After that, any Bama fan that is like going into the season and saying that they're not worried about the secondary after losing 12 players total to the transfer portal or what do you call it to the NFL draft, like that I think that is a fool's errand, I guess, is what my grandma would say. That like if you're trying to convince yourself of that, it's pretty stupid. The other thing I think with Bama is that like the schedule is really difficult. Like this is you have to get to 10 wins. Like if there's any team that would get the benefit of the doubt, knowing what we always know, I think it'd be fucking hilarious if they get in the first year of the expanded playoff. If Bama goes like 8-4 and still somehow gets into the playoff, like that would be that's my dream scenario. Is Bama going 8-4 with like 4 losses by a total of 7 points, and then like 11-1 Florida State being left out again. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit would probably be found dead, but that would be.
I mean, I would lose my mind if that happened to Missouri. So yeah. I understand it.
Well, we've talked about Missouri now for sure. But so the other part, I do think they're going to be really good. I think that it's good they get Auburn at home. It's the Georgia game's a loss. I think they lose to Tennessee, and then you just got to make sure you don't lose somewhere else, like Mizzou at home. LSU is going to be tough. I do think it's funny that people are like, dude, there's no way. I mean, they're not going to go into Death Valley and beat LSU. And it's like, if you look at the numbers on that, they've lost there 6 times since the Eisenhower administration. Like they were 23-6 since 1957 against them. So I think they'll be fine there. But dude, I mean, playing Oklahoma before Auburn, this is going to sound stupid to probably even Texas fans since you guys played 9-game conference schedules, but like having to play anyone that's not Mercer the week before you play Auburn is like, it's all jokes aside, it'll be new. They get Mercer before they play Oklahoma, ironically enough. I do think they're going to be really good on offense. I think they're going to put up a lot of points. I think the defense is going to be better than people think. But, you know, they do have a lot to replace. So I think they end up going 9-3 is like realistic. Maybe making the playoff at that if the losses are not horrible. But I just don't know how you look at that schedule and you get 5 games against top 16 opponents and then a trip to Wisconsin in week 3. That's just I just don't think it's going to be that easy.
Definitely tough.
Yeah. We'll close on a high note. South Carolina is going to go 6-6. And at some point, their fans are not going to hate me. And I can turn the notifications back on YouTube. So that'll be fun for all of us.
Another fan base hating Chris. Why am I not surprised?
Stop mispronouncing kids' names all the time.
And so bad. I said Torricelli Simpkins correctly, and then there's a kid named Maisie O. Bennett, and it's 2 Z's and no Y, so I don't know how I fucked that up. There's a lot of stuff to work through phonetically and grammatically with that fan base. But
in Missouri, that's a pizza place called Mazio's. So like, understand.
hey, we get it. We've moved on. No, so I do think.
What
Carolina,
did you call him, Mazio?
Chris, are you going to have to talk about other sports too with that gig? That
I'm going to be a huge women's basketball fan. That's their biggest needle mover. I might have to have you on the show.
You
know that no one knows basketball like me. So
I'm just saying, be careful what you say about their men's basketball team because Lamont Paris's girlfriend will come after you.
You know what I've learned more than anything
on Twitter, just like an FYI.
What I've learned more than anything, and it's pathetic to say, but I really enjoy getting to do what I do, and I try to be as objective as possible, despite growing up in like a household that pulled for Alabama and divorce. That's been our two biggest things for most of my life. But I think that the one thing that I don't understand, but it happens anyway, the fan base that hates me the most, or that is the worst,
Georgia.
It's Bama.
Oh, really?
It's Bama, and it's not even close.
I was gonna say, I feel like you compliment Georgia so much, and they still like hate you.
That's why
which is why. Well, yeah, but that's also why Bama fans hate me because they're like, "You're not a real fan." I'm like, it's not my job to be a real fan. It's also not my job to make you feel better about yourself. So, because I wouldn't do it anyway. Am I right, guys?
It's your job to make me feel better about myself. How about that? Done a really shitty job tonight.
You talked about Mizzou. Every single starting player.
We got brought on. We got brought on to talk about our teams, bro.
That was a lot of talking about stuff that I didn't want to hear about. Okay, so here's the thing. One more thing.
You came on my podcast to talk about Mizzou. Like, what are you talking about?
I love hearing where Ennis ranks
against Kansas State.
He's from Texas. I just thought you'd want to know.
Whatever.
Oh no, I loved it. I loved it. I'm picking on you because I'm from just south there. So you're great. I thought it was all good.
Maggie, I'll never talk to you again.
Well, I'll talk to you later.
No, I don't know, Chris. I Alabama secondary concerns pretty valid in my opinion, but on the good side, you don't have to worry about Quinn and Sark scheming you the hell up in Tuscaloosa again this year.
So how high did he throw that ball?
Dude, that was pretty silly, man. I mean, definitely we've seen Quinn throw some passes that have kind of slipped just a hair and not ended up in the hands of our receivers, 50 yards down. So when that ball's in the air, I was like, oh, fuck, here we go again. But the ball to Mitchell in the fourth was the one that I loved. That was a great double
21
move.
points in the fourth quarter. Bama had a lead. I said this summer, I remember going on what do you call it? It's like shows and shit. And I was like, yeah, Texas is going to win. They're going to beat Bama by double digits. And people were like, you're a fucking moron. And then when I was right, I think I was the only Bama fan smiling on the way out of the stadium because I'm so petty and listen, sex is great. And one day I hope to have it, but also there's nothing like being right about college football on Twitter, as Maggie can attest, even though she's never been right.
There's nothing better than being right about
I just
anything.
like to bookmark. I just bookmark things. And then I go back and I like them 6 months later.
How good of a feeling is that when you're like, this is gonna sound really sad, and I hope my mom does not see this, but if you're just drinking by yourself and you just are like, you know what, I'm gonna open up these fucking bookmarks from June of 2023 and see what we're working with here. That is
all the ones that were
stranger
is gonna be fired. I'm like. I mean, it is a good time. It's a great time.
Oh, you thought I was pathetic? Well, guess who's back 17 months later.
I'm gonna bring it up right before the season starts.
Well, last year
with your family.
After the Cotton Bowl last year, I was sitting there I'm pretty cordial to most fan bases on Twitter, and I just started getting all these comments from Missouri fans. I was like, I don't know you. Like, what the hell? And in some comment, I don't know, with some SEC podcast, I made the comment. I was like, there's no chance in hell Missouri is going to win 10 games. Holy shit. I didn't realize how many bookmarks it had. They blasted me for about 72 hours. So
your prediction was better than mine. I said Missouri was going to finish last in the conference last year.
And lose to Vandy, I'm pretty sure, Brandie.
It was bad. It was really bad. My SEC East prediction besides Georgia was really bad. My SEC West prediction was actually very good. The East though, and Missouri fans let me know. But now because a lot of them were funny. I didn't block any of the Missouri fans. A good bit of them were actually pretty funny and kind of lighthearted about it, which I appreciate that because they could have probably gone in way harder than they did on me. I've had Missouri fans invite me up for the Auburn Missouri football game and the Somebody invited me to like the Auburn, Kansas basketball game too. Like Missouri fans are actually like relatively nice, and I kind of feel bad because I shitted on them for no reason last year, and now I'm like, I like them. I
always
them.
love when you make a list like that, and it's like okay, and like you're filling it out. And it's like obviously top heavy, and then you like I think like last year I was like, all right, Mississippi State probably like 4-8. And then like you have like a bunch of fucking Mississippi State fans come out of the woodwork. They're like, oh, okay, we'll be back in November to talk about this. And I'm like,
never back.
Will we? Like, what is going?
I think a lot of us like predicted that Garnett was not going to last. So yeah. Which that kind of ties in a little bit to Oklahoma and their offense. It's going to look a lot different this year than it was last year with Levy gone.
And the funny thing about that one too is that whenever people are like, or whenever OU fans are like, well, we wanted Dylan Gabriel to leave. And I'm like, okay. Like,
yeah.
I get you have I knew Lounge was gonna comment. I was like, is Lounge still listening?
I thought he was gone.
I thought he was gone
legend.
too.
Look, Lounge.
Lounge is on the carnivore diet, and I don't know if that's actually true, but he's been making nachos without cheese.
I don't know, but I saw the mac and cheese post was really bad, Lounge, and that's the only bad food I've ever seen you post.
Yeah.
So
him having to mix in carbs in late 2024 was a storyline I did not want him to have to get into.
How do you even get through football season without carbs? I would not survive.
I think we all remember that 1997 Missouri season. I think we didn't have the bag of toast. Maggie, you remember?
I mean, I'm a little bit older than most people, so I might actually remember.
We
probably won 2 or 3 games. If I'm gonna be
the Nebraska game. I was just saying, I remember that Missouri season. I was like, that
was tough. Bama lost 27-0 to LSU that day. That was a rough day.
I'm impressed with that knowledge.
Brutal times.
Yeah, you should ask me that question.
Marler's older than most of us, but
I was so ready for the amount of like Auburn and Missouri crossover trivia. I just didn't think about anything else. Like I was like, all right, anytime Auburn's been good, I was like, all right, I'm good with that. And then any Auburn Missouri crossover, like SEC games, the crazy game in 2022, I was like, I was ready for those because I was like, oh, Maggie's gonna be on here. Nope, a game that I was at and I didn't even know the answer to.
Well,
sad.
I didn't know you were there.
The Aggie game.
Yeah, I didn't.
I tied it to more of my personal connection than yours, which that's on me. But hopefully you'll all be back in a little vengeance. Maggie is one of the two that have got it, and her question was a little more difficult, surprising to Chris, I'm sure, than the other guy that got it. But chance at vengeance back on. Anything else that you guys? Any questions? Any other quick topics y'all want to discuss before we get out of here?
I need to go, so I'm going to interrupt Maggie.
No, I was going to say Marler made it over 90 minutes, and I told you that he wasn't going to leave.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. This is a great.
I told you he wasn't going to leave. That's all I was going to say. So you can.
All I'm going to say is have me back on whenever you're ready to talk basketball because Trey Johnson is one of my favorite freshmen incoming for college basketball, coming to Texas. So would love to talk some Trey Johnson.
I definitely plan on transitioning, doing baskesketball content, yada yada, as we move on through the sports seasons. But thank you all. I definitely had as much fun with the show as I've had, and anything that I've done. This was a blast. Honored to have you three all on. I'll make some shorts out of this. We'll have some fun with it if that's okay by you guys.
Shorts,
guys in the comments.
Like I'll be ready when Rutgers and
I hope you
Washington.
That's going to be a short.
I'm like making fun of the opening ceremony and then telling Eddie to tell these women to stop talking about sports, and then because it's about time I lose another account. How about that?
You didn't say anything bad enough about OU to have a little clip though.
Fair.
Yeah. It is true. Everybody we take the gloves off a little bit more and more every time we go. But I will say, I appreciate it, guys. It was a ton of fun. Real quick, guys, please hit the link in the bio on Twitter. That's where most of you are watching. Go subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Ghost and Friends, like these videos. We had 2026 Texas quarterback commit Dia Bell on this morning. It's also up on YouTube. Go check that out. Quick half-hour show. Dia had practice to get to. A little insight on him. Obviously, that's the son of Raja Bell. So a cool story on Dia and his family. So go check that out, please. Go check out Maggie, Brandie, Uncle Chris, Uncle Vern, whatever the hell we'll call them, everything, Mr. SEC. Go check out all their work. They're awesome. They made this show tonight. Go show them some love if you haven't already. Most of you guys know who they are and follow them already. But for those that don't, please do. Thank you guys once again. Let's hopefully do this again, run it back. Appreciate you guys. Hook 'em horns. I love being in the SEC.